everybody, and welcome to the 8th episode of the Menorah Podcast Ministry. I am Pastor Brady, the senior pastor at First Baptist Church of Gaston, and I'm sitting here with one of my best friends, Alan Ott.
How we doing, guys?
So we are here today, and we are really excited to talk about this. Hopefully you tuned in to last week's episode, episode 7, Pastor Profile, talked about R.G. Lee. Got a lot of good comments on that. I tell you what, though, Alan, I'm kind of tired this week, to tell you the truth. I've been preaching a revival this week at Friendship Baptist Church in Lyman, but I'm glad to be back here with you. Can't wait to be back Sunday with our folks. Pastor Chris did a great job last night preaching, and so thankful to have him on our staff and for him helping with that. But glad to be back in the saddle, so to speak.
Yep, it's hard to believe that we're almost out of March.
Yeah, my favorite month of the year. March Madness, my birthday, and all kind of spring and all kind of different stuff. So we're going to talk today, guys, about a topic that we're calling marketing, media, and ministry. Now, one thing that's really interesting about this is Alan, I think that both you and I bring different tools to the table when it comes to this topic. Obviously, your many years at ETV, your passion, the gifts God has given you, can be grouped into the big category of media. So I know that's something you're passionate about, you care a lot about. For those that don't know, I got my undergraduate degree in marketing at Anderson University. I love marketing. I love colors. I love design. That's just something that I don't know if I'd say God gifted me with, but He gave me a passion for, and I love that kind of thing. And so we want to talk today about how marketing and media, when combined together, can be used in ministry. So let's just set out on some definitions before we talk about some questions and some areas of this. We need to define the terms we're using now. These are terms I came up with, Alan. These are not from the dictionary, anything like that. I just came up with these. My definition for marketing is advertising to entice others to come and be a part of something or to buy a product. I think that's decent.
That's pretty thorough. Yeah, I agree.
Decent definition. Now, for media, maybe I'm wrong here. You can correct me, but my definition is online means of communicating and sharing information.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I would add probably over-the-air broadcast as well. Lots of people still kind of have a nostalgic look at the older technology, radio, and TV to some extent. I know in my area, we don't really have a good broadband internet, so, most of our TV is still over the air.
Wow. And then the definition I have for ministry is a very simple definition, being the hands and feet of Jesus. Mm-hmm. I think that's what ministry is, right? And so doing things to the honor and glory of God. So I want to talk a little bit before we answer some of these questions that I've posed this morning. I want to talk a little bit about how far our church has come, I would say, in the last 3 years in terms of media. And so, for example, obviously we talked about on a prior episode how COVID accelerated our media ministry. We invested in it financially quite significantly, and God has blessed those investments. But I do want to talk a little bit about marketing. And you were a part of this process with me, but when I came in as pastor, we didn't have a logo. We didn't have any kind of brand, so to speak. The one thing that we had was we had the red, you remember this, the burnt red church letterhead that looked like, no offense to anybody, but it did look like it was from the 80s. That's just my opinion. And then the bright red sign out front. It really
was about from the 80s.
Oh, okay.
80s or 90s, yeah.
So hadn't really changed in 30, 40 years. And so we came in and at that time, Alan, we really didn't have a membership that, at the time I came in, the membership was a lot older than it is now. And that's not something they were looking for necessarily, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think we do live in a society where everything is impacted by marketing now.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I will tell you this little anecdote. When I was ordained, and I don't remember exactly the year, but when I was ordained as a deacon, one of my first projects was that sign.
Oh, wow.
So
That's neat.
that gives you an idea how old it is.
So that was an old sign. And for those that don't know, we actually remodeled the sign, what was it, last year, I believe?
Mm.
And we got the new logo, the new colors, and looks good. And new lights, and so pretty much brand new. So as far as the logo and things, y'all already had the live streaming and the media set up when I got here. It was still pretty new, but we had that. We just didn't have a brand. And I think what's important for people to understand is the purpose of a logo is to set your brand. And as I prayed about it, anytime I make a logo, whether I do make one for another church or another organization, I always pray about it. Because a logo is a means of symbolism. It has purpose. It's not just something that looks cool. So if you look at our logo, our church logo, you've got 4 people on it, 4 little people. And our mission as a church, see, I came up with the mission, gather, grow, and go, before I came up with the logo. And, I presented that to the church before I came. The gather, grow, go thing. It was... I mentioned that in my trial sermon, and if you look at our logo, hopefully you've got it somewhere. It's on T-shirts. It's everywhere online, but all the people are together, and I think that's important. That represents gathering.
Mm-hmm.
The growing is represented in the green and the blue. Green and blue are colors of growth, right? Green is definitely a color of growth, but blue is usually a color representing water, which would be nurturing, causing things to grow. You can't tell it on your screen, but when I designed the logo, I made it, every person is a different dimension and size. You can't tell it, but if you zoom in hard enough, you can see every single one of those people are different sizes, because everybody in our church is at a different phase in their walk with Christ. But yet we're still together. We're still a body. We're just in different walks, different phases. And so the last one that you see is that we're to go. And obviously the blue person is a representation of Christ. Christ is the one who makes us grow. Christ is the one who changes us. But then we need to go in all different directions. So that's kind of where I came up with the logo. Obviously, we've changed our church letterhead. Our website reflects that. Our Facebook page reflects that. Now, if you've seen our Facebook page this year, we have a different logo than that one because it's our bicentennial year. So we just added purple and gold, and that's just for this year. But that's kind of where that came from. So any thoughts on how we got to the marketing point in our church?
Well, I think it was probably a pretty long journey that we started. I actually remember sitting down with you to record our very first video, which was kind of an intro video for you.
Yeah.
To promote the Sunday of your trial sermon.
Yeah.
And, that was taking place really before we had opened back up from COVID. We had gone through the process to sanitize our facilities, and we had come up with a plan to limit the capacity and all of that was recommended. And so, I kind of have been a part of the whole thing. And
Oh yeah.
and that's something that became really important to a lot of companies and stuff in the decade before 2010 to 2020, was to start to identify themselves so that you knew when you saw something, you recognized not only that you knew what it was, but you knew what it was about.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I want our community and those in our state to know, because we have so many T-shirts we've produced now. I think we have 4 or 5 different styles that we've released in 3 years. And you see people, I saw a lot of people in last night's worship service have different kind of shirts. And those are to wear in the community for people to say, what in the world is that?
Mm-hmm.
And what, I'm seeing different people wearing this. I'm seeing that. And it's just really cool. How God has used that. Any comments you want to make on media? Media is a very wide. Obviously, what we're doing right now is media, and I will say this because I love bragging on my church, because I love bragging on the Lord. One thing I think our church does so well, Alan, is, we average about 260, 270 in worship. The size of our church, for the amount of media that we put out compared to the size of our church, is pretty incredible. It shows we've invested in it. It shows we care about it. But I also think we've seen dividends, because I can't tell you how many people that have gone through my new members class. I say, how did you find out about our church? I saw a video. I heard a podcast. I saw the website. I saw a Facebook post that somebody shared.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I think marketing and media are imperative to ministry in this century.
Well, I think there's a good lesson in that, in sharing stuff, because media, there is so much information out there, and when you think about it, wrong information is worse than no information.
Correct.
Because it can teach you to act in a way that you ordinarily wouldn't. So if you have friends and your friend recommends something, versus if it's something that Facebook pops up on your feed just because they do that,
Algorithms.
or at least I would be much more inclined to believe that. And so, most of the stuff in media, people don't realize, this is, I guess, a cautionary tale, but you don't allow people that you don't really know to teach your children.
That's right.
I mean, your school teachers and stuff, you develop a relationship with them.
Sunday school teachers.
Yeah. And you pretty much know what the curriculum is. So, you don't look at the things in the media. You don't look at all of these headlines you see and automatically assume that they're true. There's many reasons to say things. And, I guess as you get older and you live with media more and more, you learn that a lot of stuff is, when we were in school, they call it figurative writing. And you would say things like one team slammed another team, when, that literally didn't happen. But those words were chosen to kind of increase the impact of how bad they beat them.
Yeah.
So, you have to kind of know where your media comes from. You got to know the source. You got to know who wrote it. You kind of got to know their motives a little bit.
Their agenda.
Maybe look at some of the other things they've done. Usually, most of the articles will have a brief summary of the author at the end of the article. And, I caution folks on believing what they see online.
Yep.
And I think that'll be even more as AI comes more and more into use.
Man, AI is scary.
It really is. For
those that don't know, artificial intelligence.
Right.
Yeah.
I spent a fair amount of my time trying to learn how to close caption shows, which literally involved a court reporter real-time typing. And so the new AI closed caption stuff came out about 3 or 4 months ago. And I tried it just on a whim, just to see, and in 30 seconds, it completely captioned the entire Sunday school lesson, which is roughly 25 minutes.
Wow.
And scary accurate.
Wow. That's terrifying. I know I don't do this, but I know some pastors that have started using AI to help with their sermons. I don't do that. I think that's dangerous. I think you're flirting with plagiarism. I think there's all kind of different, avenues that I don't feel comfortable with. I'd rather spend hours upon hours upon hours praying and letting God reveal it to me instead of a computer spitting it out.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I do. So we're going to go ahead and close out our episode today. We've talked a little bit about marketing and media and how that all goes a part of ministry. I think that both marketing and media can be used to help fulfill the Great Commission. I believe they are tools that if you ignore them, they will bite you because God can use them mightily, just like He can anything. With anything, anything can be used wrongly. but also anything can be used rightly as well, as long as it's done in moderation, the glory of God. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Menorah Podcast Ministry. Don't forget, the purpose of Menorah is to speak the light, share the light, and send the light. We are looking forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget to watch our Holy Week videos that will be released on YouTube all throughout next week, but we will still have our podcast on Thursday, March the 28th, episode 9, as we discuss the heart of Holy Week. Have a good one. We'll see you soon.